Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, a podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Ashley Stevenson at Keto Carnivore Ashley on Instagram is today's guest, and I couldn't be more excited. Ashley has lost 60 pounds on keto and carnivore diets. She's a wife and mom of two, a social media manager, and a keto and carnivore coach. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on. I'd love to start with, I've been following your Instagram for a while and have really benefited from seeing your transformation and some of the information and tips you share with people. I think you have a really great account and awesome story to tell. So why don't we start with, winding back the clock. Where does your health journey begin? How did you eat before finding keto, and how did you feel?
Sure. I think that that's always a great way to start is working backwards. So I think that I grew up on a standard American diet, really. I was always very active and athletic. I played every sport under the sun known to man because, daycare was expensive. My parents worked two jobs, so sports were basically like free daycare at the time. So I was always extremely active, but I ate like crap. And when you were extremely active and burning calories, you could really eat whatever and, just created really bad habits. It wasn't until I was in middle school that I actually was going through a lot of body issues in which I was becoming aware of who I was. I was a cheerleader. I actually passed out at a pep rally one day because I hadn't eaten in probably 3 days. And so the adrenaline of the performance and then just the crash afterwards, I no longer had the energy. And then the school actually created an eating disorder group as a support mechanism to help me. And unfortunately, their way of helping was to force you to drink Boost drinks, which are just full of sugar. And it didn't help the situation. What I would say, and I've actually had, I've been supportive and helpful to other young girls who are going through this, growing as middle school is a very weird age. It's like you're not a child and you're not an adult and you're in this transformative period of your body. And so you do become really aware of things. And so even in these health groups, they force these drinks on you because they don't want you to lose weight. They don't necessarily care about the repercussions of glucose. They don't care about the repercussions of all of the sugar dumping, which is even true in your cancer treatment patients where they just don't want you to lose weight. So they continue to feed cancer cells with the increased amount of sugar that's happening. But I realized that I didn't feel better when I had a boost, that I started being hyper focused on every single thing that I ate. And that created a lot of stress for me, which a lot of people go through. They measure or they're like, okay, I ate at this time, and how do I feel? When I got into high school, after experiencing that situation, my parents actually separated and got divorced the summer going into my freshman year of high school, which is always just a wonderful time for any young girl. So what happens? Well, I no longer had the support network of my parents together. I no longer could afford to do sports activities because neither one of them wanted to pay for it. So number one, activity decline. Number two, I didn't know where my meals were going to come from, who was going to support me. I literally had $250 a month to live on. That was child support to feed myself no, I didn't go to prom my senior year of high school because I didn't have the money. I ate what I could afford, which was like ramen noodles, McDonald's drive-through, like now I will still do a McDonald's drive-through, but it's going to be the burger patty. It's not going to be like, I want the big box that gives me all the food that I can spread out over 2 or 3 days.
Right.
So, I remember those embarrassing moments when I was in the cafeteria in high school and I had actually written a check for my lunch and it bounced because I didn't have enough money. And I just remember the pity that I experienced. And it's like, what can I do? Can I come in and help work at the cafeteria while I'm trying? And it's like, you're 16, 17, 18. You don't have any support system for you. You don't know where your food's coming from. So to this day, I'm very conscious of wasted food because I came from a place where I didn't have any. And so if I got any food, I just ate it because I needed to survive. Which is actually why I took a foods and nutrition class in high school, because it was an opportunity for me to eat. It was an opportunity for me to get fed because I didn't have a resource elsewhere. But I take that as an opportunity to say that when I turned 18, I got a job, I got a car that I paid for. I started experiencing the actual purchasing of groceries, cooking for myself. And I was able to help myself learn when I felt better eating certain foods, when I didn't feel well, what helped me sustain energy, what helped me have more clarity, reduce stress. Obviously, from age 13, middle school to high school was extremely stressful. And just the whole eating behaviors was not great. And it did create an increase of over 60 pounds that, I'm 5'8", so I can handle weight. On a shorter frame, it's a little bit harder. But even at 5'8", and having that additional 60 pounds, it created a burden and a stress on my joints. I have abnormal hip sockets already, which makes it difficult whenever I have arthritis going on. And so eating badly, adding weight, it compounds that issue. It increases that inflammation. It makes it harder for your joints to heal properly and to not have pain. So that was kind of the catalyst. All of that coming together. I had been completely left alone to my own devices to fend for myself and to forage and to find what I could to eat without caring what it was, without caring if it was good for me. Becoming an adult, getting a job, taking that moment and that stand to like, okay, I'm an adult now. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to pick out foods that are good for me. I still, if I was in a hurry, would grab a Slim Fast bar because it was quick and I needed to get tons of things done to try and stay on top of this ridiculous schedule that I had put myself on. Let's see, all of the diets that I had ever gone through. I tried Weight Watchers, which drives me absolutely insane now that I think about it. I'm like, why would I eat something that had points on the box? When I see those 100-calorie little snack bags, I cringe now. And I'm like, why? Why is this a thing for anybody? Because it makes no sense. It leaves you feeling completely unsatisfied and unnourished because it's all hyper processed, doesn't make you feel good. And it's just fake crap. And so I had to eat a lot of the fake crap and I had to eat a lot of the bad diets to realize I even did a 21-day juice cleanse. Okay. For a person who only eats meat now, imagine that. I did my own cold pressed juice for 21 days. Let me just tell you, I thought my teeth were going to fall out. I wanted to bite down on something so bad. I would have murdered an entire vegetable tray, just to hear the crunch of celery, just to chew. I can't. I would never go back to that. So if anyone ever says, oh, I'm thinking about doing a juice cleanse, dear God, no, there's no point to it. It gets weird. It's way too much acid. Definitely brush your teeth afterwards because the acid will sit on your teeth and it can harm them that way. No, but I've tried. I've really tried. So in 2011, I got married to my high school sweetheart. We've been together since we were 16. Even all throughout that period of time in which I didn't have family, he's my boyfriend, my husband now. He technically is my family. And so we would cook together. We would try and and make meals together, go to the grocery store together. He's always been very big into like powerlifting and bodybuilding. So he was always rice, potatoes, chicken, pick things up, put things down in a very fun way. He was never overweight. He was just one of those, when you think of strong men, like those competitions, he was just big and bulky, not fat. And so we were this couple that was really informed about trying to make good decisions, but he was on a specific journey and a specific goal for the way that he looked and the food that he ate. And I realized I didn't feel well eating the same foods that he did. We got married in 2011. I got pregnant that New Year's. So we had our first child in 2012, Lydia. And that pregnancy was a standard American diet. I literally lived off of, don't laugh and don't like ban me from carnivore community. I had cookout cheeseburger tray with nuggets, French fries, a milkshake, and a cheesecake, like at least 4 times a week. It was horrifying. But that was what I was craving. And so I took the whole excuse, I'm pregnant. My body wants what it wants. I'm just going to eat it. Please don't do that. Have some self-control. Hindsight being 2020, my second pregnancy was keto. You can live without a cheeseburger and chicken nuggets and French fries and cheesecake and a milkshake because the baby wants it. You can say no. The baby will get over it. But when I delivered, I had a very stressful pregnancy in 2012. It was high risk. She came 2 weeks early, and it was a very traumatic delivery. I suffered with post-traumatic, I think it was post-traumatic stress disorder, not just postpartum, like the entire stress of potentially losing her throughout the entire pregnancy. And then being on pelvic rest, and then 2 weeks, it was a lot. That was actually the moment in which I realized I'm not living for myself anymore. I have to be better. I have to really give my daughter the right foods. I have to eat the right foods for her so that I feel better. I need to be present and mindful and not depressed. And that was overwhelming. I think a lot of first-time moms are extremely overwhelmed with this feeling of, it's not just me anymore, and it will never not just be me anymore. And that's a beautiful thing, but also a panic-inducing thing where you don't want to make wrong decisions. You want to be better. You want to be right. And I just realized, okay, I'm going to do a deep dive on Pinterest. Yes, Pinterest is where I found keto.
Awesome.
Pinterest was also not exactly the place in which there was a cultivation of diets in a specific form. It was really just this list. And it was a place where there were just lists. So like, oh, you can lose, 5 pounds or 10 pounds in 3 days, drink this elixir, this perfect magical pill, or whatever it might be. But I did see where there were a lot of anecdotal or like blogs that they were talking about just doing low carb, high fat. And so I did a lot of research. And when I say a lot of research, I probably read every single thing on Pinterest and created an entire keto board that had over 1,000 pins on it within probably a 3-month period. I researched it. I looked at different people who had done it before. It wasn't the same as Atkins, which drives me nuts when everyone will say, oh, well, keto is just No, it's not. It's like fake news in the world right now. It's not the same thing. It's not at all the same thing. And so, but that was the easiest way to figure out what it was. It was like, okay, so this is similar to Atkins in a way that you're reducing carbohydrates, but you're not having all the fats. You're having very specific fats. And instead of Atkins, I needed to focus on eating actual real foods and not prepackaged, manufactured, sold in a box, lives on a shelf kind of food. So I focused on that for, I'd say, at least the first 8 months. I dropped 40 pounds. And I actually did keto and sustained it, sustained the loss the entire time. My husband, let's see, that was in 2012. She was born August 2012. I did research, didn't really start keto until like December 2012, January 2013, lost initially 40 pounds within that first 6 months. I didn't do any exercising during this period either because I was a new mom. I had a very hectic work schedule, and I thought there are women out there who also want to know if it's possible to lose weight without having to go to the gym. There is a demographic that is not interested in going to work out and wants to see if it's possible. So I was like, for the sake of the argument, I'm just going to try it this way and not overburden and overstress my body and just focus on the diet and what I'm eating. And I focused in a little bit more and got off the additional 20 pounds and sustained that 60-pound loss all the way through until we decided to have our second child. She was born in 2017. And that entire period, that entire pregnancy was a keto pregnancy. And when I say keto pregnancy, that means that I may have had an increased amount of carbohydrates. Probably it was still less than 50 a day. And all of those carbohydrates were coming directly from vegetables. I did not have any gestational diabetes with either pregnancy, which sounds crazy considering the first pregnancy I ate like horribly. And the second one I ate much better. But I will say what's funny about this to this day, that my first child will eat all kinds of foods. She'll eat every starch, every single carbohydrate under the sun, but she also eats fruits and vegetables and likes meat. My second child, she's not a huge vegetable fan. She does not like vegetables. She's not even a huge fruit fan, but she will steal my steak every single night. That child is all about the eggs, bacon, and the steak. She is all about the meat. So I guess that's just one of those little oddities that can kind of come through from, just preparing them as they come out into the world. But so I did that entire keto pregnancy, and I even did a before and after, like a comparison of my first pregnancy, like postpartum, of the girls the exact same age. And you could tell that my face was completely different from the lack of inflammation. And I think it was the 12-week mark, I think when they were 12 weeks old, because I'm a super planner. So they're exactly 5 years apart and probably like a 2-week difference, like 5 years, 2 weeks to the day. And yeah, the amount of inflammation was completely gone. The actual delivery was much easier. I remembered with Lydia, my oldest, that I didn't get up right away after delivering. I actually felt like this heaviness over me. But with Callan, our second, I was up, I was moving, I took a shower, I was cleaning the hospital room before I went home, and my husband's like, "You're completely different this pregnancy. Wow. Just after delivery, I can tell you're different." And so I think I take that into the context that in my first pregnancy, I hadn't given my body its best means of defense to deal with the change that was about to happen. And where with keto, I think that my body was in a better place because I didn't have the inflammation. I wasn't having to deal with all these other environmental issues. I was just dealing with going in and doing the job of the delivery. And that was it. And so that was a beautiful opportunity to just see the difference between those two. So I was able to continue keto with, and when I say keto, I don't take exogenous or therapeutic ketones. So I wanted to contextualize this. I do not ketone dump. Okay. I don't ingest excess. I just eat the food. And I also don't pee on strips. I will test my blood glucose and my blood ketones, but only in a fasted state. I don't check them all throughout the day. I don't check them multiple times a week. I literally just checking to see where things are. And so I was able to bounce back and lose the additional 60 pounds after having my second child. It was very easy for me to sustain that. But I noticed that around 2000, so she was born in 2017, summer of 2017. I noticed that in 2018, I had lost all of the weight from the pregnancy. I was back to my, loss of 60 pounds, but I was still having inflammation. Anytime I ate high sulfur vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, it felt like someone was doing like a fast pitch softball game in my stomach. Like I just couldn't handle it. It just had me rolling. And I'm like, maybe I just don't need to be eating veggies right now. Like I slowly started doing an elimination of foods. And that's originally what I thought, keto was just an elimination diet. And then carnivore is a further restrictive elimination diet of keto. And what's funny about this is I live in the same town as Kelly Hogan.
Really?
Yeah, Kelly and I live in the same hometown. I've known her husband for many years with our work that we had in the community. And what was funny was people would be like, have you met Kelly? Because I was trying to figure out why I was having digestive issues still. And Kelly reached out to me randomly one day on Instagram, and we were talking. And I think it was, what was the catalyst that brought that conversation on? I'm not sure what it was. I think that she was going on a local radio station and just talking about people trying carnivore. No, I know what it was. It was because it was January and it was World Carnivore Month. And she was doing a lot of different talks, just trying to like buzz up and do awareness. And January was where I think she really started to focus in on talking about carnivore. And we hit it off on Instagram and just started talking. She said, why don't you come out to the house and we'll do an interview? And she's like, I want to interview you and talk about keto, and we can have an entire conversation about keto versus carnivore. And, she was like, I'm not really into certain things. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm not really into those things either. It's like, because there's a lot of unknowns about keto or, the stigma of certain things. And I think that's true about carnivore as well, that there's this stigma about you do certain things. That's not actually true. But we hit it off. And in the middle of our recording, I was like, I'm going to give it a go. And I'm going to try carnivore for 30 days. And then that 30 turned into,
Awesome.
3 months. And here I am, November 3rd, and I'm still doing carnivore. And I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the freedom that I don't have to worry about, trying to get macros in a specific format. I don't have to worry about, hunting down what magical way can I turn this cauliflower into something beautiful and delicious? Because that's not happening. I don't know. It's more freeing that way. But that's kind of, long story short, that is how I became a carnivore. And now I think we have, I'm sorry, I talked for so long about that.
No, that was excellent. Thank you so much, Ashley.
I'm talking back from that's a 20-year period, basically.
Yeah.
13 until 33. That was the journey for me.
A lot of people ask me about how to make liver more tasteful and how to cook it or incorporate other organ meats on carnivore. Optimal Carnivore can help you do just that with their grass-fed organ complex. It was created by carnivores for carnivores. They start by sourcing 100% grass-fed organ meats from New Zealand, gently freeze-drying the organs and encapsulating them into convenient bovine gelatin capsules. Just 6 of these capsules a day is the same as eating an ounce of raw organ meat. I personally take these every single day, as does my wife. Even though we both eat liver and other organ meats, our ancestors would have eaten the whole animal, and this unique blend has 9 different organs, including beef liver, brain, thymus, kidney, spleen, etc. And I think it's great to get a daily dose of these organs when you can. So it covers all your bases, whether you're at home or traveling. What's also cool is they plant a tree for every product sold, which helps the environment. So visit www.optimalcarnivore.com/carnivorecast and use the code carnivore10 to receive 10% off your purchase. Thanks, and back to the show. Wow, that's incredible. And what really strikes me is, your bravery and resilience through all of it, raising children, being married, struggling with body image and eating disorders, all while trying to figure it out on your own. And a bunch of questions come to mind, but one in particular is, what did your family, your husband, other parts of your family, and also doctors think about, some of the changes you experienced when you started doing keto? You know, were they supportive? Were they questioning? How did that go?
Yeah. So, let's see, 2013 was really where keto started for me. And that was a time when I was really just changing my meals. And it really wasn't that big a deal for family because it was just, I'm not going to eat the bread. I'm going to stay away from specific things. I wasn't using the terminology keto. I was just saying, I'm staying away from carbs. And that was really what it was. It was like a gateway terminology that kind of leads you down the road to other diets and things. My husband, he actually, I'm trying to remember the year. Isn't this terrible? You can tell when you start getting old because you're like, what year was that? There was a time in which he had a gym accident and he had torn his pec during a lift. And during that period, when you've been weightlifting or bodylifting, powerlifting for more than 10 years. And that's kind of how you see your identity of where you're planning to go and your focus. And all of a sudden you can no longer go to the gym because you've torn your pec and you can't lift anything. You're in excruciating pain. Your entire, I think it was his right pec was entirely black and blue.
Oh,
wow. He took that time to be like, let me experience keto. I can't go to the gym. And I don't want to lose a lot of the muscle mass that I have, but I understand that I could clean up my diet here. And he lost over 75 pounds within a 6-month period of eating keto with me. So he's a believer. It wasn't until he started seeing some of the foods that I was making, like when I made a double bacon bunless cheeseburger and there was a fried egg on top of it. He was like, "You're eating that?" And he looked at his own meal and like, "I don't really want that. Can I have that?" I'm like,
yeah.
Well, you can't have both, but you can choose to have what I'm having instead. And so since I did all the grocery shopping, I just stopped buying the things that he was eating before. And he just didn't really notice it as much. Like if he ate potatoes, I would just substitute them for cauliflower and I would make them in a way that it was delicious for him. He's always been a really big fan of asparagus and he's always been a really good at specific vegetables. So that was actually pretty easy. My mother-in-law, she's actually been keto. She started at Atkins years ago and lost weight and she converted to keto. I would say that hers is probably more of a dirty keto because she does drink wine. Whereas, you've got some that are pretty staunch non-drinkers, even in the carnivore community. There's some that drink, some that don't. That goes without saying. Coffee, heavy cream, like there's a wide range of do's and don'ts. But the family was really receptive and they just looked at it as, sometimes I'll hear, "Well, what are you doing now?" "Oh, okay. Well, that sounds good. You're having steak every day." I don't see anything wrong with that diet. That's just their statements. I'm like, that's right. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's actually not that expensive. If someone's going to dry age a steak for 45 days, then I think you can get a manager special steak that might be 2 or 3 days past the date on the thing. And it's going to be totally fine, especially if it's a top sirloin marked down to $4. I mean, you're totally fine. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it turned out family wise. And I've had a lot of family that has reached out to me and asked, but I'm a very patient, dedicated and determined person. And I think I had to be when I was growing up. Once I set my mind to doing something, I stopped because I don't have there is no going backwards. There wasn't a safety net. So I still think with that goal, with that that in mind, that limitation, that there is no safety net. There is no, what if this doesn't work? It's going to work, and we are going to push forward. And I think that's why I've been successful. A lot of the family that has reached out, they saw success and they saw weight loss, within 2-3 months, but then old habits crept back in. They thought, oh, well, I can have this now because I've lost weight. And like, no, it's a lifestyle. We're not trying to climb the ladder and add back in the carbs. Like defeats the entire purpose of what we're doing. And so trying to communicate and articulate the education process behind what we're trying to do, that it's not just about the weight loss, it's about trying to heal inflammation and gut health and, keep our minds in a space where we're not flooding it with sugar. I've got diabetes and heart disease and Alzheimer's and dementia on my side of the family. Like, I've got to try and pump the brakes on all of those things. And diet is the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. And I was curious, you mentioned the keto pregnancy, but did you breastfeed on keto as well? And do you think that can work well for women, or do you have any advice on that?
Yeah. So actually, I've got a funny thing that happens with me during pregnancies. So both pregnancies I suffered with kidney stones. So diet didn't matter. You know how sometimes we'll say, oh, you can't do this, you'll get kidneys. That's not true. Because I had it with both. I did pump with both. I couldn't breastfeed with my first one. She didn't latch. We didn't have, but I did pump. I only pumped for 3 months with my first. Milk production was not a problem. With my second keto pregnancy, I pumped, and I actually pumped 8 months. I pumped longer. My milk production was there. I never had an issue with production whatsoever doing keto. It was strong. It was, I would almost say that my colostrum, which was the gold milk that you have in the beginning, was actually present longer for more days. It wasn't just the first 3 days after delivery. It was always quick to come in. It was always easy to pump. I always had lots. Literally, whenever the power went out this past weekend, I had 3 bags of breast milk still left in the freezer. And it's 3 years old now. Wow. So I mean, I can't use it. It's only good for a year in the freezer, but that's how much I had in excess of. So yeah, there was never an issue for me to pump or to breastfeed on a keto pregnancy. The lactation itself was perfectly fine, perfectly normal. Production was good. Volume was good. Quality of milk was good. She was never in a situation where she felt starved or it was thin milk. It wasn't thin or watery. It was always very good, solid quality milk.
That's great. And I'm curious, Ashley, what does kind of a day of eating look like for you today? And are there any things you're experimenting with or still tweaking with as you think about carnivore and keto?
Yeah. So I did a video not too long ago with Kelly Hogan in which I had done an update and I was like, hey, I'm doing carnivore and I gained 10 pounds. And I don't really know what's going on there. And so that got me down this entire rabbit hole of experimenting because you can't experiment. You can totally still experiment in carnivore. It's not like you're restrictive and you're like, you only eat one thing. So I've experimented in which I only eat ground beef. I've experimented and done an egg fast. I've experimented and done dairy free for 21 days, which I will say, reducing dairy from my diet didn't change the scale, but it did change. There's an entire thing on my Instagram about mouth taping because I snore. My husband snores too. I can just sleep through anything, so it doesn't matter. Shame. He just can't. So, dairy increases the mucus production. So, I try and limit my dairy. So an average day for me, I try and limit dairy as much as possible. If I'm going to have any dairy, I try and limit it to just my coffee to where it's just heavy cream and I don't have it throughout the day. I also don't have it as a main source of food because it's a lot of fat and it's not high density enough for me. My preference throughout the day, I'm going to have eggs. it's a beautiful food. Like I just can't say enough great things about
Love eggs.
Yeah, I love all the eggs. And what's even crazy about it though, growing up, this reminds me of a moment, and I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but it's Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts, where Richard Gere tells her that she doesn't know who she is as a person. She doesn't even know what kind of eggs she likes. And there's this entire scene where she's sitting down and she's trying all the different eggs. And when she says that she knows who she is, she says, I love that eggs Benedict. And so I would say that I have a similar moment in time in which I was sitting down and I'm like, I don't know if I like runny eggs. I've only ever had them scrambled, because if your grandparents or your parents or whoever was cooking you the food, if they made it a certain way, that's how you ate it. So now I've realized I like eggs a certain way, contradictory to the way that I ate them when I was younger. I prefer my steaks rare. I would almost probably have it blue rare. And that grosses out my husband sometimes because he's like, I can't do that. I just can't do that. But I do like it rare. I've never tried raw. I don't know if I can work myself up to it because I have a texture issue.
Yeah.
I could try. Do you do raw? I can't remember.
I've done it before, mostly with liver. But I prefer to at least sear the steaks, get them a nice crisp on the outside. Otherwise, it's just like so hard to even cut through them.
It is really hard to cut through. Okay. So, when you said liver, I can't. Is it chicken liver or beef liver? That's another question.
Beef liver. And you'll get there. Trust me, I was disgusted with liver for the first year and a half of carnivore. I couldn't stand the smell even. I tried a million different ways to cook it. And all of a sudden I started liking it. You won't believe me, but trust me, it'll happen.
Okay. All right. I'll bookmark the date and I'll snap a pic and I'll tag you in it. I tried Vanessa Spina, Ketogenic Girls, bacon liver pate.
Oh, really good.
I had it that way, but it was a bit off-putting because of the texture. I think I just needed more bacon. That's always
chicken liver pate is amazing.
Yeah. I think the answer is just always add more bacon and then it'll be fine. That was what I came out of.
That's the solution.
That's always the solution. Bacon is like, a chef's duct tape. It's perfect for anything, binding agents, everything that we need. But perfect day of eating. I focus primarily on red meat. I'm not a huge chicken person. I have to be in the mood for chicken. And also, even during my pregnancies, I wasn't a huge chicken person. I had food aversions during pregnancy. So smells bothered me. Raw chicken was a smell that I would retch in a heartbeat if I just smelled it. I just can't. And I don't know if I have a memory of that or I don't know. I just have to be in a moment to appreciate the bird as I'm about to eat it. And chicken, I don't know. It's just not the most bang for my buck. If that makes any sense. I think a lot of carnivores think that way.
Totally. Okay. So what does an average day look like in terms of number of meals, amount of meat?
Yeah. So I would say an average day is I have coffee in the morning. I don't have anything usually for breakfast unless I didn't eat dinner. I don't always just eat lunch and just eat dinner. Sometimes, depending upon my day and how hectic or the schedule is, I might have breakfast. I might go ahead and have a pack of bacon, air fried pack of bacon. And that can actually last me for most of the day. It's rare that I eat 3 meals a day. And if I do eat 3, they're small, they're not big. I don't ever go over 1.5 pounds of meat a day. And actually, I think on days when I'm trying to be leaner, I don't know if I get in 1 pound. It just depends. I'm not one of those that eats the same thing every single day. Yesterday I had, I made meatballs and a cheese sauce. I did not eat lunch and I had coffee for breakfast with 5 fried runny eggs. So if I eat 2 meals, it's either breakfast and dinner, skip lunch altogether because I'm full or busy, or I will just have coffee and then do lunch and dinner. And as we speak, I'm growling. So I'm probably going to do lunch because I haven't had anything to eat. But yeah, a typical a typical day for me is coffee, some eggs, and then some beef. And that beef is either going to be in the form of a steak, or it's going to be in a meatball, or it's going to be in a hand pattied burger. That's a good day for me. I like those days. But then if I get a wild hair, I might have smoked salmon and cream cheese. Those are the days when I feel like I'm doing dirty carnivore, because I'm like, I don't really need the cream cheese.
It's all good.
I know, it's weird. Like, variety is the spice of life. As long as I keep it in the animal family, I feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Ashley, I feel like I could talk to you forever. And I think we're going to have to do a part 2, because it's just been so much of a pleasure to chat with you and hear your story. And I'm sure folks will want to dig in more. But thanks so much for coming on today. Where can people find out more about you and follow along with you?
Sure. I'm the most active on Instagram. It's just at Keto Carnivore Ashley. And that's where I post recipes, things that I'm trying out, and stories. I do have a website. It's ketoashley.com. You can message me there or on Instagram. But I'm pretty active on those 2 places. But thank you for having me. And I agree, we could probably talk forever about different things. It did take me a while to cover 20 years of my history.
Oh, of course. It was really helpful and inspiring to hear. Awesome. Well, I'll link to those in the show notes. And thanks again for coming on. This has been fantastic, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.